which is the same as the YAML file. But at the end, you have auto-completion, you have fact checking, and you have all the stuff. So you don't actually need to know before you start using this configuration, like really deeply the system. You can just like alt enter or something like for auto-completion and just write down the things that which is kind of really easy quick start. And the great thing about it is that when you need to fix something really quickly in production or anywhere else, just all the tools will stop you from doing bad things with this. Like, for example, compiler, right? And so, as I said, it has many pros. The first one is, well, you may say that the runtime configurations are basically faster, right? You just reload the application. Well, when you look into Go and how fast it compiles, it's kind of the same, because you will end up just compiling the stuff and then running it, instead of just creating a new configuration or just modifying the configuration, which is like a really long, really long thing to do. But right now, you can just compile it and run it. Well, there are sometimes things like libraries are not really lightweight. For example, Kubernetes was not really lightweight client until recently, which means you had to compile like a lot of things from Kubernetes to actually use the client. But at the moment, you can just use the client with its modules and all the stuff. So you won't compile anything else, which is kind of fast. The second real thing about this, and the most important for me, is type checking and auto-completion. As I said, if you do something wrong in YAML file or in Nginx configuration or anything like that, and you don't have the proper tools, the thing is that you won't know until you will actually try to create a configuration or update the configuration. While when using Golang, and also many other languages, there's this really good thing called auto-completion. And now you're using fully featured language, which means that when I go back to this, you see there's a template in here. And what it means that you only not have the YAML file, you need a tool above the YAML file that will basically template the YAML file, and you can then use that, which is the thing that you can do in programming language anyway, right? So you will just use things called variables, and it's done. So, and one more thing, or two more things, actually, is that when you do this stuff, you can actually check that on CI, which means it breaks builds if you do something syntactically bad. Which means even if your colleague or somebody else just changes the configuration, it goes through CI and it breaks, even if they have like the other version and you're using something else on the production or something or somewhere else, it just breaks builds. I know it's not like you may say like, oh well, it breaks builds. It's a good thing that a broken thing won't make it to your production. And last one, error reporting. Have you ever seen error reporting that comes with the YAML files and all the tools around that? Like when you're missing a field, and it just says you're missing something, but it doesn't know what you're missing actually, and it just says like you're missing something and I don't know what, so just repair it. And you're like, all right, what do? In Golang, you have this static type checking, which means all the stuff is checked for you, instead of like runtime checking and then serializing and deserializing everything. And so, what I want to show here is just a really simple project that I wanted to showcase this on, which is called Gears. It's a really minimalistic Docker container runner, and it looks like this. You have your Gears file in your repository or somewhere in your directory, and you just say, all right, these are the steps for you to run. And what it does, it takes your wall folder, it mounts it into a Docker container, and then it runs the steps for you. You can do this with multiple directories, with multiple steps. You can add on-fail pipelines and all this stuff. But while testing this, I actually started to think, all right, how do I document all this stuff? If I break something, because this is an early stage product, if I break something, I will basically break all the builds, but nobody will know until they are run. So this will basically feel like it's all good until they try to actually use it, which is not a good idea when you're using when you try to use this on a large scale project or on many projects at once. And so this is the first thing. I wanted to just use the YAML file. I was like, all right, but what now? And the second thing was the library. So this comes with this really simple library, and you can see the parallel here that not only configuration file, you can write the configuration in your code instead. Which means if your configuration is really big and you need to reuse it or do anything else or just extend the CLI, you can do that programmatically here. So you don't need to actually use the YAML files. And what you'll do is you'll just compile this, run it, or just run it, which compiles and runs it. And this will be basically the same thing. But what you can do, you can specify your Docker client, you can specify container configuration, which directories on file, all the same things, which basically this configuration then maps to the YAML configuration. So it's kind of easy to understand and to go through. And one big thing about this is documentation. I believe there's nothing like documentation for or like the Go doc for YAML files, which means you can't just control click to like peek the definition or something like that in YAML files. Well, you can do this in Golang in almost any editor. So when you go and you're like, all right, so what's container config? You just go there and see what container config does. You can see all the documentation and all the stuff, and just learn about it. So there's no really like this isn't really easy way to start exploring the library instead of like deep diving into the system and just copying all the examples all over the place and trying what it does. And well, the secret is really simple actually. And the secret is that you need to think about the configuration from the programmer perspective first, and then just wrap it into configuration of like your YAML files or serialization formats you want to use. And if you start using this API, like this is something else, if you're using just like, you know that this will be the thing that everybody will use, you need to optimize this. But for all the tooling that I've been working with, there are always programmers around. And so it's really crucial for us to first write a programmatic API, which is the interface so everybody can run the thing in Golang and not by using YAML files and then wrapping it in another tool and all this stuff. And then, after that, use the CLI, which means you already have your API, you already have your configuration, and you just wrap the configuration into CLI flags and all the stuff. And this way, it just kind of feels right, also like for me, may not for you. So the secret is like really simple, right? You're like, well, that's it, all right. But the thing is, when you look into the standard library, you can't actually use Go FMT from Golang because everything's private. So when you try to like go generate anything and then you're like, all right, I need to format this, you can't. You just need to copy this code all over your place, like all over your project, and just try to do this like on your own. And if it breaks, you don't know why. You just copy the code, right? You can't really extend this or do anything like that. And that's why we have projects like Revive and these, which try to actually like fix these mistakes. And that's kind of the message that I wanted to leave. That always think about programmatic APIs first when you try to do tools for your team or for other programmers, and then wrap it into configurations and CLIs, not the other way around. Don't just try to design the CLI and then do all the stuff behind it, because that will not work well. And so that's all from me. I'll thank you, Al. And if you have any questions, I got papers with numbers. Thank you.
So one of the things you mentioned is that if you have a YAML file and, for example, use Python for reaching the configuration, You mentioned that if the configuration is not there, it's gonna tell you it's not there, but it won't tell you what you're missing. But is it really so? If you load a YAML file, it's basically a dictionary. If you ask for a key, you get a key error.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. What I wanted to say was that you still get is like the really wrong things happen when you try to do like the semantically bad things, and this is what like syntactic errors can be catched before you even compile, or before you even do something with it. So even when you do like Python, it's always a runtime error,
Yes.
which means you already need to like runtime load the configuration, serialize it or deserialize it, and just use it. And the thing here is that it doesn't like you're right that there's a key error. The thing is that when you look into errors like there are in Kubernetes or these systems, these are just really bad. These are like C++ errors. You can't just you just don't know what happens there. So this is like not just like it's not like a key error. It's like there are many schemes for one thing, which means you need to know what's happening right now. And that's why we have multiple models in Golang, for example.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Maybe just a like small suggestion or question or really. Is there any way to fast reload without restarting the process?
Do you mean like when you change the configuration?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. What you can do here is use a thing called Go plugin, which is from HashiCorp, or you can use the plugin system in Golang actually, and you can do these things here. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Come on. There's so many numbers. All right. In that case, thank you again, and I'll let you know. Please do another speaker.